Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Fan Project Content Creator Series brought to you by Sports Innovation Lab. I'm your host, Jack Barlow. As content supervisor here at Sports Innovation Lab, I'm excited to spend the next 4 weeks chatting with the recipients of our Fan Project Title IX grant. The grant is focused on promoting up-and-coming content creators that are producing innovative storytelling content based around women's sports. Now, many of you know at Sports Innovation Lab, we have been focusing on how data can unlock the business potential of women's sports. We launched the Fan Project earlier this year to prove to the industry about the untapped market of women's sports and how the industry has left billions of dollars on the table to date. We believe now is the time to change that. My first guest today, Christina Williams, the founder of Girls Talk Sports TV, knows that fans of women's sports are passionate, loyal, and dedicated to the athletes. Now, she is a member of the Forbes 30 Under 30 list for 2021. She's a social media superstar. She hosts a weekly show on Spotify and is one of the most trusted WNBA insiders. So you'll hear how she has built her platform from the ground up and what it takes to deliver innovative and engaging content in today's attention economy. So without further delay, I'm pleased to welcome Christina Williams of Girls Talk Sports TV to the Fan Project Content Creator Series. Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us. I'm happy to be joined by Christina Williams, the founder of Girls Talk Sports TV. She's also a Forbes 30 Under 30 honoree in the sports category. No surprise, that's why we're speaking with her today. She's one of the best WNBA analysts and platforms out there. She's a content creator. She's a recipient of our Sports Innovation Lab Fan Project Content Creator Grant. She's a woman of many talents. So Christina, thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you so much, Jack, and thank you to the Sports Innovation Lab and the Fan Project for choosing me as a recipient for their Content Creators Title IX grant.
Yes, yeah, it was a very easy choice. You know, we've been following you on all your social media platforms. You put out amazing content. One of the WNBA's top insiders. I like to think so, anyways, and I'm sure there are many people around the industry that would agree with me. But we're here today to talk about content creation, community, how you have been able to grow your platform. And let's just jump right in with how you got started. What made you want to become a content creator, and why did you want to put that emphasis on women's sports?
Well, storytelling has always been in and a part of my life. I mean, growing up, I was a theater kid, went to high school at LaGuardia for visual arts. And so my involvement with storytelling evolved as I got older, studied journalism in college. But also, I was a student athlete, played basketball throughout my years in school. And so creating Girls Talk Sports TV was not only a marriage of my two passions of sports and storytelling, it was also a way for me to give myself an opportunity. Breaking into the sports world is not an easy feat. It's not only for women, but especially for women of color. And so for me, instead of waiting for someone to give me an opportunity, I decided to carve out my own niche in the industry and create an opportunity for myself and other women as well. The statistics show that less than 4% of all media coverage goes to women's sports, but also statistics show that less than 2% of sports reporters are Black women. And so creating Girls Talk Sports TV was important for me, not only to tackle those statistics, but to show that women deserve to be in the front and center of sports culture and conversation.
Yeah, yeah. So we do share the journalistic background, although me being a little bit vertically challenged, I'm luckily standing behind this Zoom camera here, so you can't see that. But I was not the student athlete like yourself, but did have a passion for journalism, and commend you for taking the initiative, seeing a hole in the market, saying, hey, I can do this just as good as anyone else. I just need to kind of create that platform for myself and put that content out there. And so Girls Talk Sports TV is obviously growing by the day. How have you been able to, start that platform from the ground up, continue to grow your following, and just expand on the content you've been able to produce?
Well, I was able to start my platform really by just growing within my community. In 2018, when I started that platform, basketball was still a part of my life. I mean, I attended a lot of open runs in New York City, where I'm from, with lots of other women in the community. And so for me, it was all about showing up to these events and continue to show up and continue to have a hand in my local community. I was also volunteering as a coach and mentor for youth basketball, showing up to any and every WNBA league community event when it comes to the New York Liberty, so that when the season rolled around, I was able to get those press credentials to start to cover the league. So it was all about showing up in my local community. And that's how I began to build a digital presence in terms of creating Girls Talk Sports TV, creating a space where sports fans can come and get WNBA news that is digestible. I realized quickly that not every sports fan wants to read a 1,200 word article. And so with my platform, I follow a formula that my college professor taught me. She said, keep it simple, stupid.
A good one. Yep.
and, and that is like my strategy when it comes to sports news. So when you come across Girls Talk Sports TV and the news that the content, it's simple for any person. If you're a new sports fan or if you're a seasoned sports fan, you can come and you can learn something from the Girls Talk Sports TV platform and page. And so I thought that was important as well, building a community and also just making content that is digestible.
Right. Yeah. We live in the attention economy today, and, everything seems to have a 90-second attention span, whether it's a quick clip on Twitter or a tweet, a short post. So I definitely agree that snackable content, digestible content is something that's, very much taking over the industry. And we still like to put an emphasis on storytelling, give athletes that platform to kind of tell more about their lives off the courts. And so that's where some of those long form pieces may come into play. But I definitely agree, fluid fans are constantly on the move. They're digitally native, and fans of women's sports being almost forced to be so digitally native, given the coverage. Like you said, I believe 4% of media coverage is going to women's sports. So, they've been living on these digital platforms, but they just provide a sense of loyalty and affinity and passion for the sport. Like you said, the New York Liberty, you were constantly going to those meetups to make sure that you were involved in that community. And how do you view fans of women's sports, whether it's WNBA fans, NWSL fans, or LPGA, whatever it may be? How do you feel they're different than like a traditional sports fan, if you will? I know I'm using the air quotes, but we categorize fans of women's sports very differently. So I'm curious to know how you would, classify them and how you find them different than a traditional fan.
I mean, the fans of women's sports, especially when you look at the WNBA, which I cover, I mean, they are ride or die. You mentioned loyalty. These fans they're advocates. I mean, just looking over the last 24 hours with the WNBA playoffs, seeing how fans are just so passionate about not only what's going on the court, but also what's going on off the court. Fans want to, be directly connected to the athletes. And so I think that one of the unique things that I do with Girls Talk Sports TV and my platform and the content that I'm putting out is I've created a space where, fans can talk directly to their favorite athletes. I mean, I host a live audio room every week on Spotify called Women's Sports Wednesday, where we're having these tough conversations about topics that's relevant to what's happening, not only on the court, but off the court, and fans can talk directly to their favorite players and interact. Um, but yeah, just to answer your question, I feel like women's sports fans are ride or die. And not only do they care about the athletes, but they also care about the content creators. They are
Yep.
loyal as well. And so that's how I would define them.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, the WNBA has done a great job recently, dating back, to the Wubble, with their social justice and the activism that the players and the league were very fully leaning into, which was great to see. And the community around it really, believed in that message. And that's something we talk about a lot with our new community-based monetization model, where you have to produce content in a different way, and fans are really, they're not beholden to, so let's say you're born in New York, you don't have to be a Liberty fan. You don't have to be a Knicks fan or a Brooklyn fan. You could support Skylar Diggins Smith and say, hey, I want to be a Mercury fan, or, Brittany Griner, Diana Taurasi. I'm naming off Mercury players because I myself am a Sophie Cunningham fan coming from the University of Missouri. So she was back off injury and was able to play last night. So we're recording this as the series is tied 1-1 between the Mercury and the Sky. So we have some big games coming up here in this next week in terms of crowning that WNBA champion here in the 25th season. But yes, totally agree with what you're saying. It's, it's all about passion. It's all about finding that right niche where, you can say, these players, these teams, they really speak to the ideals that I hold true and are important to me. So the WNBA has been great about that. And it leads me into my next question. You talked about earlier the 2% of women that are African American that are news reporter or sports reporters, excuse me. And so is that the main thing you would like to see changing in the industry? Is there something at large that you would like to see? What can the sports industry do better as a whole in terms of representation for women, whether they're African American, people of color, whatever it may be, but just get that representation out? Is that the main thing that you think could be a big change?
Absolutely. I mean, again, looking at the WNBA, the league that I cover, more than 80% of the athletes are, identify as Black or a person of color. And so I think that if you can see her, you can be her, whether that's the person on the court or the person presenting you with the sports news. I also think that it's important in terms of having diversity in the newsroom when you talk about perspective, the narratives that are being put out about athletes, the stories that are being told. I think that, yes, the industry as a whole can do better in terms of hiring more people of color in reporting positions, production positions, front office positions. You know, we know that this industry is male dominated and saturated with white men. That's just what it is. That's the reality of what it is right now. But I do see that there is a turning tide, that more women of color are getting more opportunities. I just look at ESPN's lineup. You have LaChina Robinson, Malika Andrews, Carolyn Peck, Monica McNutt. You have all of these women who are coming up, and you see them reporting, and you see them at the front and center, and not just a token woman on an all male sports broadcast. No,
Yeah.
these women are front and center. They're giving you the news, and they have that credibility. So I do think that the league in itself could do better, and the news industry can do better with diversity in the newsroom.
Mm-hmm. And I'm sure you're wanting to be a role model for all the young girls out there that are seeing you produce your content and be out in the front on the social media and all the various platforms that you're on, whether it's Spotify or Twitter, Instagram. Did you have a role model growing up that you look to? And obviously, there's a few that you mentioned, but that are currently running the show. But
Yes.
was there anyone that you said like, "Hey, this woman really gets it," or it could be a man, I suppose, but that you just look back to and you say, "Hey, I would love to be something like that."
Well, of course. I mean, as a Black woman who is a reporter, how can you not look at Oprah and her success and say, "I want to be like Oprah"? Even growing up, I mean, I grew up in New York City, so I grew up watching the local TV show, seeing Robert Roberts, and then I look at some of my peers. I mean, studying Ross Gold on Wooding, I would watch all of her YouTube videos and all of the games that she would call when she was on the Warriors, and now she's like one of my colleagues. Like, me and
Right.
Ross host some live audio shows on Clubhouse together, and so just seeing those women be successful and how they've opened the door for more women is definitely inspiring. And definitely something that I took note of. And then from a more personal perspective, definitely my late grandfather was someone that I looked up to in terms of business and how he was successful as an entrepreneur, and his tough grit. He kind of taught me the game. So those are
Mhm.
some people that I looked up to that inspired me.
Yeah, all great people to mention. And it certainly shows that you have that grit, determination, and drive that it sounds like your grandfather had instilled on you. So it's good to see you carrying that on. And let's look to the future now. We were able to give you this grant money, and we're excited to see how that comes into play as you continue to build the platform. But what do you see as the next step for Girls Talk Sports TV, or you personally in the industry? You're on Clubhouse, you're on Spotify, you have all your social handles. Where's the next step? What's the next big thing coming out of Girls Talk Sports TV?
The next big thing coming out of Girls Talk Sports TV, just speaking this into existence, but just
Get it
more
out there.
collaborations, more
Yep.
collaborations, more partnerships. Hopefully, get some some funding. some seed money to continue to grow the platform. But that's the next steps. I really see Girls Talk Sports TV being, well, I already call it the number one source in WNBA news, but
Yep.
just being that place where people come and to find out everything that's happening 24/7. I mean, I say Girls Talk Sports TV is a platform that provides equitable media coverage, non-biased. I practice all the journalistic ethics that I've learned in college and just throughout my years of reporting to the social media realm. When I'm breaking news and when you see
Mhm.
me doing interviews with athletes or agents or whatever it may be, you just know that what I'm reporting is the truth, as best as I can get it from my different sources. So I just see Girls Talk Sports TV being that number one news platform for the WNBA and perhaps more sports, more women's sports as well. And then personally, I would like to have my own show. Like I see myself being as big as a Woj.
Mhm.
And so all I can do right now in this moment is continue to be consistent, continue to keep pushing, and continue to put out the best work that I can.
Yeah, and recently you had a Williams bomb, if you will, pulling off the Woj there with the dream
Yes.
head coaching position getting filled. And I know I saw a few tweets come out. It says source say, and you were like, "Hey, let's source it to the right person, right? Let's get the
Right.
credit out there." So for those of you listening, I got that information from Christina's Twitter. Christina, let's use the time to plug all your channels here. You have the Spotify Wednesday show. You have a couple clubhouses. Where can we
Well,
get?
no longer on Clubhouse, just on
Okay,
Spotify.
okay,
But
just Spotify.
yes,
We've
just on
siloed. Perfect.
Spotify officially.
Okay.
So you can catch Women's Sports Wednesday every Wednesday from 7 to 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Spotify Green Room. You can find me, Christina, on Twitter for all of the latest breaking news. WNBA free agency is coming up. The college basketball season is happening. So if you
Mhm.
want to stay in the mix and get the latest news in real time, follow me on Twitter at Christina2334. And then, of course, for your daily women's basketball and WNBA updates by the minute, follow us on girlstalksports.tv on Instagram.
Excellent. Perfect. Well, everyone, get out your phones, get on your mobiles. Let's go follow those accounts for Christina. Christina Williams, Girls Talk Sports TV, Forbes 30 Under 30 honoree. Many more accolades to come in the future. We're excited to be working with you for the grant. We're excited to see what's coming next. Maybe we'll be getting a show out of you sooner rather than later. And we will be looking forward to all of that coverage from WNBA free agency reigning to the women's college game.
Absolutely. Thank you, Jack and Sports Innovation Lab again for the Title IX Content Creators Grant. Super, super, super thankful to all of you and looking forward to creating some kick ass content in the future.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Once again, I'd like to thank Christina Williams, the founder of Girls Talk Sports TV, for joining me on our very first edition of the Fan Project Content Creator Series. As you heard, Christina is one of the top media personalities and insiders covering the WNBA. If you follow her on Twitter, it seems like there's no story that gets broken without her fingerprints on it. She's definitely dialed into what all the athletes are doing on and off the court. And so even though the WNBA season is over, you should continue to follow her for her coverage on free agency, the various coaching hires that will happen around the league, and anything and everything you can think of when it regards to the athletes in terms of their off season. So be sure to follow her on Twitter, listen to her show on Spotify, follow her on Instagram. We certainly will be keeping in touch with her and working with her throughout the offseason of the WNBA and continuing forward. So thank you to the viewers, the listeners, once again for tuning in. Be sure to come back next Thursday when I sit down with Jessica Luther and Dr. Amira Rose Davis, two of the hosts of the Burn It All Down podcast. So thank you. I'll see you next week.